welcome to another edition of the 24th Floor. It's been a minute between vacations and holidays, but now we're back like we never left.
Back like your favorite rerun. Now, there's a lot to unpack this week, from some of the nation's top high school basketball right here in Memphis to the Grizzlies struggling to make a run.
Yeah, but you got to start with the big dogs.
Yes.
Or maybe we should call them the large rebels. At this point, we're talking Ole Miss football. They're headed to the college football semifinal where they will face Miami.
Oh, I can't stand Miami. Me being an Atlanta guy, this is a program who I've had great disdain for since I was a kid. So I definitely feel the Rebels right here. And joining us now is a frequent friend of the program. He's been talking Ole Miss football with us all season long. You can't talk Ole Miss athletics without him. He's the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcast. Welcome to the program again after so many weeks, Mr. Steven Willis.
Good to be here, guys. It feels like we've been talking about this stuff over and over for like 14 weeks, and it is weird. I'm going to find out how good of shape I am in, because it is hard carrying the hopes and dreams of the entire Southeastern Conference on your back. So we will see how it goes tomorrow against the Miami Hurricanes.
That's a whole nother conversation, honestly, about the SEC's performance in bowl games.
Yeah.
Which I think, unfortunately, opens the door for other conferences to make the case for them to have more games.
Yeah, because, now you're starting to say, like, the SEC was all hype, no action. But at the same time, this was bound to happen because the SEC was playing each other. They were essentially cannibalizing itself in the playoffs.
Yeah, Steven, real quick, what's your take on that, the SEC's performance in bowl game seasons? Not just the playoffs, we're talking bowl games in general.
Well, I will say this. If Ole Miss is winning playoff games and the rest of the SEC teams are losing, I'm fine with that, if that's the way it goes. But I also think it's hilarious, the narrative of the SEC being down, the SEC being bad, all of this going over and over again. You have a Southeastern Conference team in the semifinals of the playoff that nobody's talking about. They're talking about how Bama got blown out by Indiana and Georgia lost a game. Didn't mention who they lose to, but that they just lost. And that's kind of a weird take as well. That's kind of a brand over substance type argument, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yep, today's conversation is all about semifinals, all about the next big one. First of all, super congratulations to Coach Pete Golden and company for not just getting the win, but can we say getting the monkey off your back at the same time?
Yeah. Mayor Pete. I call him Mayor Pete. Steven knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he is tied for third in all-time SEC playoff wins as a head coach. Pete Golden.
Look at that stat.
But seriously, there was so much talk about can they do it without Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Beating Tulane is beating Tulane or whatever, but can you win the big ones without Lane Kiffin? So what's your take on him being able to get that win and kind of get, like I said, get that monkey off your back, get that out of the way?
Especially since this was a team that beat them the first time around.
Yeah, and getting the win is really cool, obviously, because of what it means. But the impressive part of that game to me, Kirby Smart was the coach that flinched. He's the one that didn't think in the second half, even though he was leading at the time, that he could win the game. He needed to steal possessions. And when you look at that and think about that, Pete Golding on the other side, making the current GOAT of college football, basically, as a college football coach, flinch, that right there is the best sign of the entire Sugar Bowl to me.
So something that I've been thinking a lot about with this Georgia game is, could you say that not only the outside bubble, but nobody really projected Ole Miss to win this game? Because now we look at it, Steven, Lane is basically pulling the troops. So aside from Charlie Weiss and Kevin Smith, all those guys got to go back to LSU. And so it makes me think, Steven, Lane was making this big fuss about, can I coach in the playoffs? And then he's pulling his guys back. So how would it even have worked had he stayed?
It wouldn't have worked. No. It would have been what we talked about back in November if he stayed. It would have been an abject disaster. It would have been Matt Campbell going from Iowa State to Penn State and taking 20 players over. It would have been catastrophic. And Pete Golding, getting the job immediately, ironing down to where Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to stay for the duration of the playoffs. Anybody else can stay that they want to. If not, that's fine as well. There's one person on that assistant coach staff that really mattered, and that was Charlie Weiss Jr. He was able to get that. He won the Tulane game, which honestly, there was more pressure on winning that game than winning even the Georgia game. And this game against Miami, the matchup is intriguing. They always talk about in boxing how styles make fights. This is going to be a really interesting thing with Miami running the ball. Mark Fletcher, the best line in the college football playoffs right now. And the physicality on defense, you have to work. That defensive line, Ruben Bain against Trinidad Chambliss. There's a lot of storylines going into this game, not the least of which of the keys to happen on both sides of the ball for both teams to be successful. Because I think I had Alex Dono from Locked On Canes on my podcast today, and I was like, hey, everybody that's in the Final Four is 100% believing that they are going to win a national championship, or they wouldn't be in this spot. Yeah, they should. So this is going to be 4 evenly matched teams. There's not really any brands in it if you take out Miami. Miami's kind of the only brand that's left in the tournament. And it's just going to be really good football. And other than the fact that they're all Nick Saban disciples, it's relatively unknown and people that you wouldn't normally think would be there. I always joke, it's like, hey, the 4 teams that we thought at the beginning of the season are in the semifinals because – nobody had Indiana as the best team in college football. Nobody had Ole Miss sneaking in there. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year. They had 2 starters returning or something like that. Oregon, okay, I'll give you Oregon. And in Miami, who knew what happened with them because everybody assumed that Mario Cristobal would stumble at some point like he has. So this is a really fun Fiesta Bowl. It's going to be a really fun Peach Bowl as well. I think college football has a chance to have its best Final Four that they've ever had in college football, and it might not be the brands. It's not Alabama versus Clemson or something like that. But I think if you had a championship game of Ole Miss versus Indiana, it would be some of the best football that we've seen.
I'll agree with the idea that it could be that this year's football might be the most fun, entertaining, engaging football. But I do think that I don't know if college football is ready for what college basketball is already good at. College basketball, you can have an unknown advance in the playoff, in the bracket, in the tournament, and what happens?
You see upsets.
Everybody jumps on board, right?
Yeah, bracket busters.
Yes, everybody's encouraging these no-name teams to go be successful. In college football, it's almost the opposite, it feels like sometimes, where everybody's almost disappointed that the old brands, as you keep saying, aren't there. And so I'm hoping that if this happens, to your point, Steven, that, and I get your take right here, Rich, that I'm hoping that actually does happen, that people get on board with kind of a new taste of college football.
I think it's more so that I like it, that this is why the 12-team playoff works. Because in the past, especially for a run for a lot of my childhood, it was SEC always winning the Natty. And then now, like you said, anybody can do it. Now you have a chance.
Well, not anybody.
Well, I'm saying like a Big Ten team. Like Ohio State won it last year, but for the most part, the Big Ten has not been in there for the national championship. And so now the Big Ten is got an increased spotlight. Miami really putting the ACC back on brand.
But they do have a former SEC quarterback.
Who?
Don't they? Who's Miami's quarterback?
Oh, Carson Beck. All right, come on.
Right to Georgia. So I'm saying, it's not. There's still an SEC tie.
I mean, now you're getting into semantics like
He's
that.
He's their starting quarterback.
It doesn't matter though. He's with Miami now, AC, and like Steven said, Miami's been a perennial chokes.
Correct.
I mean, every year
so they got
Miami's
an SEC quarterback.
You know what I'm saying? But he's not the reason they won the game. They beat Ohio State because of their defense.
Yeah. Steven, what's your take on that? Do you think that the people? Do you think the people are ready for this new era of, can we call it Cinderella college football? It's the teams you don't expect.
Yeah, yes, but the reason is because the teams that you expected before were like 6 teams, always, every single year. Now it might be 18 teams. Now team number 25 is going to be hard to get into the tournament, but let's be real about this. Teams like Arkansas, teams like South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, can be in the conversation now because it's expanded out to the point where it can take them. It's not just an Alabama and Georgia party holding the hopes and dreams of the entire SEC up. Now it can be a much larger swath of the conference. And I don't know about the G5s, but that's another conversation for another day.
Don't get Ruben started on that.
But the middle of the Southeastern Conference have more of a legit chance to get into the actual game because for decades we were just observers of what was going on. Now we can actually go in there and inflict and make a name for ourselves and not just root and chant SEC because some team in Alabama or Georgia are making plays.
Now, we only got a couple of minutes left, but we've already kept you on here 10 minutes at this point, Steven, so we're not going to keep you all day. But I want to get what's your prediction on this game? Like you say, it's a style thing. It's offense versus defense, really, at this point. But Miami's known for defense. Ole Miss known for offense.
The irresistible force versus the immovable object.
Yes. Well, this game, Ole Miss has scored over 30 points in 9 straight games. And in those 9 straight games, you have 2 games against the Georgia Bulldogs, including one in Athens, Georgia, and one in Norman, Oklahoma against the Sooners. And that's 3 pretty good defenses. So I'm thinking that Ole Miss is going to get to the 30-point mark. Now, the important thing in this game is you have to stay as close to on schedule as you can. You don't want to have a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15 so those ends can just tee off. You need short yardage and 2nd and 3rd down to move the ball down the field. Ole Miss gets that done. Kewan Lacey, all the guys coming back, they're still celebrating in Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss wins the game 31-24.
Woo. What about you, Rich? What you got?
You know, I got to save that for 901 beds.
Okay, all right.
Bluff City Lines.
All right, what's your
You need to give your take.
I think Ole Miss wins because I think Ole Miss wins because I think Ole Miss is riding, and I'm going to use the term again, I think they're riding that Cinderella high. If this was March Madness, everybody's money would be on Ole Miss. If this was a March Madness basketball tournament in this situation with the way they're playing, with what they're doing, everybody's money would be on Ole Miss. And I think they win. And I think if they win, they have a legitimate shot at becoming a national championship. I agree. I think they have a legitimate shot. I think, and to your point, Steven, before Rich takes over, Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss both saying that they are coming back. Chambliss, of course, pending NCAA approval. That's huge for Ole Miss because there's no question now. It's like, let's just go roll.
That is a perfect segue for what I wanted to ask.
That's what I'm known for, a perfect segue.
So Steven, obviously, you know, a big thing that we talked about with the Kiffin thing was is he going to try to poach guys? Mm-hmm. So it came as no surprise to me that LSU was hoping for Chambliss, hoping for Lacey, hoping for Carniero, and all those guys coming back. Do you think now, you know what I'm saying, with this Chambliss situation, because I listened to where he's getting a little frustrated, where do you feel about how this Chambliss thing is going to go? Because now Ole Miss is have to work on a backup plan while still focusing on the now. I heard they got DJ Lagway, who they're trying to get in for a visit. Where do you stand on Chambliss? Do you think that this could be the last run for him, even though he says he wants to come back? I think he might be like, you know what, man, I'm tired of waiting. I'm balling out. Why not try to go to the NFL? Screw it. What do you think?
It's possible. I mean, that's absolutely possible. The reality of it, though, is if he can get approved for his waiver, he's probably going to make more money at Ole Miss than he would in the NFL, at least in the first year. And so that effort's going to be there. So Ole Miss has to go on 2 paths. One, 100% that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be Ole Miss's quarterback in 2026. And 2, if Trinidad Chambliss is not there, you need to have a high-level starting quarterback in charge of your roster. This roster that's going to be so good potentially in 2026, you need a high-profile guy as well. So it's 2 parallel paths. You could end up with both situations to where Chambliss is there and they get somebody in like a DJ Lagway or something like that, or the young guy, Deuce Knight from Auburn, that Ole Miss is looking at as well. Those 3 names are probably one of them is the starting quarterback in 2026. I right now think that Trinidad Chambliss is eventually going to get cleared. It just might not be in the next day or 2. Now that they have legal representation, the NCAA is likely, not likely, but if they deny it, it's going to get appealed immediately. They're already working on what they need to do to appeal it. And if that happens, it's going to end up in the court system. And tradition says the NCAA blinks if it goes to the court system.
Well, my biggest issue with all of this is that you have a smaller window for the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So if you're Ole Miss, you have to try to make those decisions without knowing the outcome of Trinidad Chambliss. If you knew the outcome already, you could go in the portal and spend as much money as you need to on a quarterback. Without knowing, you could, in theory, go in the portal, get you a high-named guy who's going to come, and then Trinidad gets cleared. And now a DJ Lagway, does he want to come sit behind Trinidad Chambliss? Probably not. He's probably going to go somewhere and play.
Ruben's burying the lead. He's not rocking with Trinidad getting a 6th year. He's like, get a job.
Yeah, bro, he's 37 years old. It's time to go. It's time to move on. No, but the truth
What is that? They're like the NBA commissioner, get ready to learn LinkedIn, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will say this about Trinidad Chambliss. He does have a legitimate case for medical red shirt. Now, it does sound like he had tonsillitis.
He did.
And people recover from that fairly quickly. But
I think he also had mono.
Yeah, so
And
and mono
mono
does
like
wipe
months.
you out. Yeah,
Yeah.
mono wipes you out for months. So I'll give him credit for getting that 6th year back at this point in time.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm going to rock with Trinidad. I've been with Trinidad since day one. Steven knows ever since the Georgia State game, I've been rocking with Trinidad. So he's my guy, and I promise you we will get a Trinidad flag on this program.
Well, we'll have plenty of time because he's going to play till he's 47. All right, Steven, that's going to do it for our show today with you. We appreciate you taking the time to join us as usual.
Steven, what are you working on, just before we let you go?
Working on some more crossovers with some Miami people and a reaction show tomorrow after the game. And then if the national championship game is an option, I am planning on being in Miami. We just have to work out how that's going to happen.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Hopefully, we down there in Miami, or at least we talking to you from Miami. I don't know if we're going to be down there, but, fingers crossed.
Don't forget you can catch Steven on all the places you catch your podcasts, including right here on
The 24 plus.
All right, Steven, thanks again for your time. Have a great rest of your day, brother. We got to take a quick break. Time for that quick break. And when we come back, it's time to start talking some hoops.
Yes,
I mean, it is basketball season after all.
Yes. When we come back, we're diving into the Memphis Tigers basketball team. What's going right? What's going wrong so far? We talk it all when we come back.
All right, we are back, and you saw it. We're talking Memphis Tigers basketball at this point in time, and we've already had this discussion a little bit before the season started that such a tough preseason for Penny and company, but done intentionally to prepare them for the NCAA tournament. Now you're starting to see the Tigers get on a roll.
It's just kind of sad to see that the Penny scheduled such a tough non-conference and they went winless. They don't have a statement victory in non-conference.
Which you kind of need, but
it's some tough losses. They lost a heartbreaker to Purdue, a heartbreaker in overtime to Vanderbilt, lost to Louisville,
lost to Ole Miss,
lost to Mississippi State. They didn't get a single victory in non-conference. I mean, we're not counting Alabama State because they were supposed to win that one.
You need to win I shouldn't say you need. In a perfect world, you get one or two of those statement wins so that if you do struggle during the conference play, you've got those big wins on your resume and everybody's cool with it. But now, without any statement wins,
you got to win the conference.
Got to win the
conference. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no Memphis at large. They have to get in the conference. And since they've started conference play, Ruben, they got back right. 7-7 overall, undefeated in the conference. They got a victory over North Texas, and then they got a victory over Rice. What do you see from them?
I see that just in watching a little, we watch a lot of different stuff, just so people know. But in watching what I've been able to see, and then I'm a stats guy. I dig through the stats a lot. Because the numbers, I always say, what was it, Yo Gotti said, numbers don't lie?
Yeah. Men lie, women lie, but the numbers don't.
The numbers don't. When I'm looking at those numbers, what I'm seeing is that you only have one starter playing 30-plus minutes.
Yeah.
That's Doug McDaniel.
He's been merged as the guy, though.
Yes, you said a while back they were missing a guy.
A go-to guy.
And he's becoming their guy. Then they've got Hassan Abdul Hakim, who's getting 20 minutes plus off the bench, but he's the only guy since conference play has started. So it's just 2 games, but he's the only other guy getting that kind of minutes consistently. So really, what you've got is you've got starters playing single-digit minutes.
Yeah.
And backups, reserves coming in playing double-digit, if not 20-plus minutes in some of these conference games now that conference play has started.
Now, the thing that I kind of see about the Tigers is they are a very small team, in my opinion. They have so many guards who play. You got McDaniel, who is the head of the spear, but then you got Curtis Givens.
Yes.
You got Quante Berry. You got Julius Stedford. You got Ashton Hardaway. These are all guards, and you have to diverse the minutes. The thing that, to me, and we've said
Do you know why there's so many guards at this level?
Why? Because they can't recruit the big? Well, see, no, I'm glad you got to that because the guy who they gave the money to, Bradshaw, and he's a guy who we continue to say on this program needs to step up.
Yes, but what I'm saying is when you have more money to give, you can have more than one big that you rely on. The reason why Memphis is, in my opinion, Memphis isn't the only one. A lot of schools at this level are going to have limited bigs because those bigs go for big money to those bigger conferences.
Yeah.
They'll take them at those bigger conferences, even as a project at times, because they've got the money, they can do that.
Well, why doesn't Memphis dip into the international pool like what Baylor did with the Najee guy?
Well, I don't.
So what is your take on that?
If you don't take your old butt and go get a job somewhere. My opinion is.
Why isn't Memphis going over to Cameroon or Europe?
According to the NCAA rules, and I have looked into this, according to the NCAA rules, you can get paid to play as long as it doesn't exceed your cost of living, basically. So you're technically not a pro if you're just making enough money to get by, is kind of what it reads as. And so some of these G Leaguers and international people.
I was about to say, do you think there's any guys on the Memphis hustle who can go suit up for the Tigers?
I think the moment you play professionally, which is not collegiate, you sign any type of professional contract, I think you should be null and void from college athletics.
Penny's at these high school games. He needs to be down at the Lander Center in South Haven.
I don't know how long those.
Find a G League guy.
I don't know how long he might as well go to the YMCA. I think there's a couple of gyms down the street with some dudes hooping. I don't know how long this trend is going to last because there's so many coaches making a stink about it. There's so many coaches that are upset about what's going on right now that basically there's a loophole that Baylor and a couple other people are trying to dip into that I don't think is going to last.
It was hilarious listening to what Calipari had to say.
But let me just say, Calipari preaching the absolute gospel when it comes to recruiting and NIL and eligibility right now. If you have not listened to what John Calipari's had to say about that, you need to listen because he is preaching the gospel.
Now, something I want to ask you, because Calipari is one of my favorite coaches in the game. Do you think that this new world we are in is going to slowly but surely push out some of these old coaches? I'm now starting to think, I think guys like Coach K and Jim Boeheim saw this coming, and that's why they left. Because I think they would still probably be coaching if it wasn't for the NIL that they foresaw coming. I think we're just going to start losing more of those elder heads. Sooner or later, we won't have Tom Izzo.
Can we keep it a buck?
For Michigan State.
Dude's been getting paid forever.
Okay.
Dude's been getting paid forever.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it a buck. Dude's been getting paid forever. Now they're just getting paid on the front end, not the back end, right?
Free agency every year.
Yeah, it's not behind closed doors. It's in the middle of the gym. So the payment isn't the issue. It's the entitlement that I think some of the more older established coaches don't like. Even some of these young coaches. We say older coaches. I promise you, some of these younger coaches don't like the entitlement that's going on right now because they didn't grow up in that. They grew up. The pennies of the world grew up grinding for their spot, right? There's a lot of coaches who don't like the entitlement, but just like anything else, they don't want to be the ones that are bucking the system and saying, this is stupid, I don't like. Calipari is one of the only ones coming out saying it in plain English. Most of them feel the same way.
Well, you know, Penny's found loopholes. Remember, I think we talked about it. Penny, was fining Aaron Bradshaw from his NIL, which I don't know if that's legal. But Penny was like, I don't care.
It is. Yeah.
Well, Penny was like, you're late to practice? Fine. He was like, you don't show up to meetings? Fine. And I guess that's the way. He was like, yeah, we paid for you to be here, but just like a professional team, if you don't follow our standards, we're going to take some of that money away. So that might be the way to do it.
Well, everybody should have a contract that includes a buyout clause for a school if you want to leave. I think it should be 1 year of free transfer, and any transfer after that should be sit a year.
Yeah.
And those contracts should have expectations and guidelines, just like coaches, where if you get so far, you get bonuses, whatever. But if you don't do X, Y, or Z, you can get fined or whatever. I think all of those contracts should have all of those implements in it. And I definitely think, but this is my own personal opinion, it's probably another hot take. I think that just like any other sport, there should be salary caps for each grade level. I think when you're a high school kid coming in and you have not played 1 ounce of collegiate basketball or football, you should have some type of a cap. You still get paid, but you should have some type of salary cap, right? Just like in the NBA, just like in the NFL, there are rookie salaries.
Yeah.
Then after your rookie contract is over, so your freshman year, now you're open to free agency or whatever. Hey, you've played the year.
But you know, a lot of times they want one and done.
Okay, so then go get that NBA money.
So you're trying to say it's more of an incentive to stay because they'll probably make more money.
What I'm saying is there's so many people shooting money at kids who aren't proven who end up struggling.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell, you're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at a kid because you have to. There is no, if you don't understand how this thing works, there's no true market value for any kid. Your value is what your agent and everybody else says it is. So it's not like there's a metric where they can go and say, okay, you're 6'10", you average 20 points a game, your value equals out to $500,000 a year. Doesn't work like that. It's the kid saying, I want to make $500,000 a year. The first person that says they'll give me that, that's where I'm going. And so then if Arkansas says I'll pay you that, then Ole Miss says, no, we'll match that and we'll beat it by 100,000. Now this kid's market, his rate is going way up, but it's unproven.
And then as soon as he doesn't deliver, you're getting buyer's remorse, and then they're right back in.
But now you're stuck. So which is a part of these.
Well, not necessarily aren't stuck because they'll just hit the portal again.
Yes, but what I'm saying is those incentives, that money should be paid out in portions based on performance.
True. I get you.
My contract, I have a contract here at this station. It is for a certain amount of dollars. I don't get all those dollars up front.
Yeah.
I earn those dollars bi-weekly in a paycheck.
We all do. Well, not all of us.
Right.
But most of us do.
This should be no different for a college athlete. You should be earning your money as you perform throughout the course of a year. You know that if you're in the NFL, if you're, I don't know, NBA too, I'm assuming, but in the NFL for sure, I know that if you're injured, if you don't play, you don't what?
You don't get paid.
You don't get paid.
Well, yeah, NBA, the money's guaranteed, but for some people like Zion Williamson, they'll put clauses in the contract.
So in the NFL, if you don't play, you don't get paid that week. If you get suspended, that's why NFL players
like with the
fight
DK
suspensions.
Metcalf thing.
You fight the suspensions all the time because you don't want to be suspended, because if you get suspended, you don't get a game check.
Yeah, and then you can lose those guarantees, like with DK Metcalf when he hit the fan.
So all of these high school and college athletes need the same type of benchmarks that the professional athletes have, because they're making the same, if not more money than some of these professional athletes. Cool. I have a son. I have 2 sons that are growing up. Hopefully, they're blessed enough to play college athletics. If so, I want them to be able to be paid when they do it.
About to say they're gonna come to that NIL belt and put you in the bins.
I'm good.
I'm brand new
I'm
bins.
good with all that. But
brand new bins coming up to the Ruben Diaz household.
But what's going to happen is if there's not some structure, then this thing is going to bust like a big old bubble. And before you know it, instead of everybody getting some kind of money, it's going to wipe the whole thing out, and you have to start over fresh. There's a right way to be doing it, and we're just not doing it that way.
Going back to the Tigers thing, like we talked about Najee, if you are a Memphis Tigers fan, you got to be upset because you couldn't get Dane Danger back, who was their big-time big last year. And what we've talking about, that's what Memphis is missing out on.
Yeah.
I believe, Ruben, if they had Danger this year, they would be in a better situation. But Danger's over there sitting. He tried to get more eligibility. They're saying no, but then you got this Najee guy who's getting minutes for Baylor, and Danger's like, I can't catch a break.
Yeah, NCAA is subjective, not objective. I will say this. I do think, back to your point about Memphis being guard-heavy, I think the game is a guard-heavy game. Anymore. And I think in the American, they can win with a guard-heavy team.
And it's more so because of the culture we're now. Small ball is starting to be the way to
So I'm saying it's a guard-heavy game. And Memphis is going to rely on defense.
Which they are very good defense.
Yes.
I looked up a stat. I think they're 30th in defensive efficiency in the country.
And that's with some of the games that think about the teams they've played.
Their only thing is sometimes, and I noticed this when I was at the Vanderbilt game, they have this tendency where they can foul a lot, and they're undisciplined. But when they're locked in, like they were in that Rice game down the stretch, they are very good.
Sometimes fouls come from fatigue, too, as well. If you're while you're figuring out your rotation. Some people may not be in the best shape, whatever, but so some of that could be from fatigue. But I will say they're going to live on defense in the American. They're even though they're guard heavy, they have talented guards, which means that if one or two guys are not shooting the ball well or scoring well, they have other guards they can play
Step up.
that will get that stuff. Now, I will say they need to shoot the ball better from outside. 2 games in conference play, they're only shooting 29% from three-point line.
Yeah.
That's not great. That tells me you're going to have to live on defense. 13 assists a game, but 17 turnovers a game. That's not the way you want those stats to look.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting that they have such a vast amount of time off. You're talking about they played Rice this past Saturday, then they got FAU this weekend. So you got a lot of time to watch film, a lot of time to get those kinks out, and just keep doing what you're doing in American play.
I think they win out in the American. I think they make it to the NCAA tournament, and if they get a good matchup with another guard-heavy team, they're fine. Now, if they get matched up with an extremely big team, they might struggle because rebounding will kill you. I don't care who you are. Rebounding wins games, and if you don't have the bigs to rebound, that can be your problem.
At least they can be able to fall back on that non-conference play and be like, okay, we're ready for a team like this. But it's still a whole lot of ball to be played.
100%. All right, we got to take another break. When we come back from the Tigers, now to where those stars are actually made initially.
Yes, we head to the high school hoop scene. It's a new initiative we got here at ABC 24. Memphis has some of the top talent in the country. We'll talk about it when we come back.
All right, welcome back here at ABC 24. We're making a New Year's resolution. We want to be your source for high school sports.
So we started that by hitting the courts. Now, I've been watching some of the top teams in the area, Ruben. I started it this week. I started it down in Whitehaven. Let's actually get into that game first and my takeaways from that. So the thing with Whitehaven and St. George, you're looking at a St. George's team that went to the state semifinals last year. You had a Whitehaven team that's really good in its own right, ranked number 19 in the state of Tennessee. That's according to Max Preps, because usually you want to go off of with your rankings. But what my takeaways from this game, Ruben, is Whitehaven is a very physical team. And it's kind of like what we talked about with Memphis. They play defense really well, but they don't really have a go-to guy. They're just kind of that get-it-out-the-mud type of team. And St. George, they're your classic private school team. They're a team that is very fundamental, and they kind of wait to get the best shot. The thing that I learned about St. George is obviously they have some off-the-court stuff where they are actually down 3 players, and the fact that they can still be this competitive, I think going into that game that it only lost 3 games and none was by more than 5 points. So when I was watching this game, I thought that St. George was going to get the dub. And so I left before it went to overtime. And to find out that Whitehaven ended up pulling out the victory, our guy, friend of the program, Wendell, told me, in a way, Whitehaven went and got that game.
Well, I watched Whitehaven play Arlington because I wanted to see Rod, the quarterback from Arlington, play basketball. I was wanting to catch him playing basketball because, he's a big basketball guy. And I would say that your take on Whitehaven is very accurate. Physical, defensive-minded, moved the ball pretty well. Didn't necessarily have a guy that you were like, every time this dude touches the ball, he's electric. Didn't necessarily have that guy, at least it's early in the season still. But that was kind of my initial take when I watched them play. And I was impressed with how physical, they're long, and how high the motor is for those players on that team. That was a good team.
Yeah, and so to kind of segue, Whitehaven, the team that they're playing with next, is the team that I want to talk about, and that is the Central Warriors. So Tuesday, we went and I covered Central in Kingsborough. Now, the thing that interests me about Central, they were undefeated. They were 16-0. They were arguably the best team in our area, even though.
Watch out.
And then they took their first L in the Memphis Hoop Fest, which I hate that I did not know about it. But they took their first L to a team from St. Louis in the Memphis Hoop Fest this past weekend. And so when you have something like that, I think we're seeing it in the NBA with the Thunder. When you go on this big run and then you lose, then the losses start piling together. So I'm always interested to see how a team responds after taking that first L. And this is what I called on the Tuesday night sportscast, it was a get-right game because they dominated Kingsborough. And it's a guy, like this team has a multitude of guys who could get it done. A.J. Polk, who you see there, who got the layup. They got a guy named Mikael Boyd. He had hit a corner three. I really like Central. They are another one of those disciplined teams. They move the ball around. Even they know how to beat a press. And I'm just excited to watch them play some more.
They don't look big.
They aren't really.
Which is crazy. I mean, so I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I believe Central beat some big prep team.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
They beat I don't know, I want to say Link, but I don't know if it was Link. They beat some prep team earlier this season that kind of put them on the map, so to speak.
Yeah.
So they are one of the best teams in our region for sure. Remember during football season, I would say part of the struggle we would deal with is week to week you would know like where the competitive games were going to be.
Yeah.
There were good teams, but the way the regions were set up and stuff, you didn't always get competitive games.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have that problem here in basketball.
Exactly. Especially, I've only
you
been doing this for
experienced
2
that
days.
like last night.
Literally, I've only been doing this for 2 days, and and that's why I tell you, people, please let me know about what's going on in the area, who's good, because back-to-back nights, Ruben, overtime. First game like Whitehaven, St. George, overtime, and this next game that went into overtime
is probably the best team in our area. You said Central, but
I'm saying
Bartlett,
Central. I mean, record-wise, like you say, numbers don't lie.
But Bartlett is nationally ranked.
But Bartlett has 3 L's.
Bartlett is pretty strong.
They are. I mean, and let's get into it. Bartlett is the number 10 ranked team in the country.
They got
not
the size
just Tennessee.
to go with it, the length.
But you look at this game last night, Ruben, in Houston, and I came into it like I'm hearing all the noise about Bartlett. I'm thinking Bartlett is just going to kind of cruise and control. Bartlett had to go get this game because for the most part, while I was there, this was Houston dominating. I got there, Bartlett was down 7, went into halftime, and on this run right here, Houston ended up stretching the lead to double digits. You're thinking they're going to run away with it. And I know, Justin Bryson, what a player that is. And Caleb Davis, he was the one who threw down the jam. And those two had a little bit of a connection going. But Houston, they really impressed me in this one. I didn't know that Houston was that good. I was talking to, once again, our guy Wendell, and he was like, yeah, man, we arguably saw probably the 2 best teams in the area.
I think Houston is talented too, and Houston's got a ton of kids at that school too, so they have a lot to choose from. But basketball is big here, bigger than I even expected when I first got here. Right, like basketball is big here on the boys' side for sure. And I will say that Bartlett, the little bit I've been able to see, because we said the New Year's we said, all right, we're getting into high school, we're going to focus on high school. Bartlett's got the resume right now to back it up. They've got dudes who can hoop. They've got guys with Division I offers.
Yeah. So word on the street was Penny Hardaway. He was at the game last night. I didn't want to, get him on video, privacy, stuff like that. But word on the street was he offered 4 people who played in that game. 3 of them came from Bartlett.
So 3 from Bartlett and 1 from Whitehaven, one from Houston, I mean. And so that just tells you in one game 4 potential Division I players.
Exactly. And don't you got to love it that he's staying in-house and recruiting? Because he could easily be, of course he's still going to hit the portal.
Yes.
He's still going to hit the portal, but he's still doing the traditional recruiting, and he's recruiting here. So I want people to not lose sight of that Penny still is trying to get guys from Memphis to play for Memphis. And one more thing about Bartlett, that number 1 in the highlights, Braylon Williams, that kid is good. I was gone before it went to overtime, but he hit a game-tying 3 to send it into overtime. Our guy Wendell had the footage. I should have got it from him. But, man, that kid is good. Like, he's going to be good.
There's other teams around here that are good, talented as well. We've talked about Briarcrest.
Yeah.
I
got to get my eyes on them.
Fred Smith Jr. And Joshua Huggins. Both of those dudes are good. They can play.
Yeah.
So you're talking about another team in the area that's got a lot of talent that we haven't had a chance to get our eyes on yet either.
We will. I promise you we will.
But so there's a lot of high school football in this area that I think we all have to, like, if you're a basketball fan, and to your point before I say this last piece, Penny recruiting in-house is huge.
Yes.
Probably bigger than most people realize. It's huge because let's just say Penny were to leave and go somewhere else. You don't know if the next coach would even recruit Memphis. They may have a totally different network of kids and players that they go to. So Penny recruiting in-house, I think, is huge. And I do think that outside of P4, what we called mid-major forever, those guys still have to have some high school kids on the roster.
Yeah.
They need to have some young kids to you can't have culture if you don't have some kids coming through your system consistently. So hats off to Penny for being at the game. Hats off to Penny for offering kids in the area. I respect that a lot.
Yes, and we will continue covering high school basketball this coming Friday. We will have Central versus Whitehaven. You can catch
that's
the
gonna be a
highlights
good one
on ABC 24 News at 10.
All right, time for another break. When we come back, now we're going to talk Grizzlies.
I know you hate to talk about the NBA, but can the Grizz make a push to get out of that play-in spot? I got a hot take myself. We'll talk about it on the other side.
All right, we are back. We've talked about college basketball, high school basketball. Now we got to get into the Grizz.
Such a polarizing topic for Ruben here.
Not really.
They're the cash cow of this city, man. You just need to get on the bandwagon with the Grizz.
You act like I don't like the Grizz. It's not that I don't like the Grizz. I'm just not the biggest fan of this version of the NBA.
You've been to?
I've been to 3 since I've been in town.
No, I'm talking about this season.
This many.
Exactly.
I'm a busy man. I got 2 kids playing sports
Man,
every night.
you don't be doing nothing on the weekends, man. Go to them Grizzlies games.
Listen, the Grizzlies games are probably one of the funnest things I've done
And
since
they're
I've been in
cheap.
Memphis.
They're cheap.
The vibe at a Grizzlies game is off the chains, fun, for sure. No
Yes.
doubt about that. You're trying to make this about me. It's not about me. It's about the Grizz.
What I liked about the last Grizzlies game I went to was when we covered the Sixers game, and I like during the timeout, and see, that's how they pay attention to the culture of wrestling. Now, I know I'm about to go over your head on this, but there's a popular WWE wrestler named Jey Uso, and he does.
I know who Uso is.
You know about Yeet and how he
Yeah.
does the.
Yeah.
They did a Yeet camp where they was like, Yeet, it's just me, Us. Day one, it was, man. I love the Grizzlies, man. It's fun at the game.
What you're talking about has nothing to do with the actual Grizzlies.
Well,
you're talking
okay.
about the production crew and the in-game people who are making it a fun environment. That I agree with.
Let's talk about the Grizzlies now. They're 16-20 on the season, and it looked like when we got to the end of 2025, they had turned the corner. They were going to start getting back into it. But then they lost 4 in a row. Now they're sitting in 10th place. Now they did snap that spell by beating the Spurs, which a lot of people probably did not think was going to happen.
Well, Spurs had already beat them twice, I think, this season.
Yeah, but the Spurs, I don't know what is going on in the NBA in 2026. So the Spurs whooped the Thunder 3 times, and then the Thunder lose to the Hornets, and the Spurs are losing to the Grizzlies, who had lost 4 in a row.
Yes.
What is going on in the NBA? That just shows how the NBA is wide open.
It's a lack of consistency in the NBA.
You hate it.
Let's just watch some of these highlights. Can you pull those back for us, Leanna? Can you just pull those back? I want to watch this again, and I want to have a conversation while we're watching those actual highlights. Show me the defense being played.
Hand up.
Watch this. Watch
Jalen
this.
Well,
Watch
okay,
this.
backdoor.
He's 2 feet off of him.
Wemby. He has Jock Landale guarding. They had their hands up.
And I think Wemby's very talented, obviously.
Top 5 player in my opinion.
Look at that. That's a simple pick and pop.
But that's
play.
what happens.
That's a simple pick and pop play. That's my beef. Good play.
Cam Spencer.
Yeah, I could play Cam Spencer. Get him up in the air. To me, Cam Spencer and Cedric Howard are the bright spots of the Grizzlies this season.
Absolutely. I think Cam Spencer should be a most improved player talk.
When you watch those guys, I think it's easy. I think it's easy to say, man, that's a bright spot. All right, thank you for that.
No. Keep it going because I want to eventually see this Cam Spencer game winner. Now, all right, look, you had Jalen Wells on the ground.
Come on, bro. You're telling me that? Come on. That's not even an aggressive step back move that he got wide open. That's a simple step back move.
And then guys not getting back. Ooh, look at that chase down block though.
That's a Spurs culture thing though, right? Like you have to play hard on the Spurs.
Okay.
Come on, the floater.
That chase there. Okay, he went and got him.
A little bit of a foul, but okay, whatever.
Jalen Wells has been getting a lot of hate lately. It just shows how.
So when you
here it is right here, the game winner, Ruben. That's the guy, Cam I am.
I like Cam.
That's your guy.
I like Cam I am. So all right, so that's the point I'm making. The point I'm making isn't that I don't enjoy going to a Grizz game. I do enjoy going to a Grizz game. I think it's fun. The vibe is great. And the games that I've been to, I felt like the product was pretty good. I haven't been to any games this year. This year, what I've seen, not from the Grizz per se, but from the NBA, and a lot of times, it's just a lot of inconsistency. And I'm like a basketball purist, right? I love good basketball. I know I'm old, but I love the fact that in the 90s and early 2000s, those games were like 90 to 105 points.
Yeah.
80 to 100, you'd have an 80-point game. 80 to 90 might be the total points, the total point of each team, and that told you there was defense being played. There's 140
those guys
points
maybe
scored in
as
halves.
offensively talented as far as like they all couldn't shoot like that.
Shut your head.
I'm saying like those bigs couldn't shoot. You didn't have no
How
guys who
many
could
bigs
step out
right now
and
can really shoot?
Everybody on the Grizzlies team can shoot a three.
Have you seen
even
their
got Zach
three-point
Edey.
percentage?
Yeah, because they chuck up
Have
a
you
lot.
seen their three-point percentage?
If you cut half of their attempts down, then it probably would look better.
What I'm
you got
saying
every
is-
team shooting at least 40, 50 times a game.
Which is a problem. You're making my case for me.
It's going to look lower.
So you're telling
Nobody
me,
shoots the three
you're
ball well because
telling
they
me
shoot
that
50
it's
times.
okay for people who do not shoot the ball well to shoot threes just because they can.
It's almost like if you are.
I'm asking you a simple question. Are you saying that it's okay for people who do not have legitimate three-point potential to shoot threes just because they can?
In this day, the answer is yeah. But
No,
to me,
the answer is no. The answer is always no.
the
answer is always going to be no, people. Moms and dads out there,
you
if
hear
you've got
coaches
little
say,
Johnny
just keep shooting.
or little, they never say that to the kid who
have you
can't
ever
shoot.
seen that Deion Waiters quote? It's like, I'd rather be 0 for 9 than 0 for 30. Or I'd rather be 0 for 30 than 0 for 9.
Nobody has ever said that to a
I'm
kid
gonna
who
keep
can't
shooting.
shoot. Moms and dads out there who are coaching their kids and they want their kids to be the next whatever, I'm going to tell you this right now. Teach your kid how to shoot if you want them to be a shooter. Because the older they get, the less attempts you get. I coach at a fairly high level of summer basketball.
Yeah.
And we have very specific rules. If you don't shoot 40% from the three-point line in your school ball season, then you're not a three-point shooter in the summer because the defense just gets better. You can't come to me and you're a 20% three-point shooter thinking you're going to be lighting it up from outside. No, you're not, and that's okay. You might be great at other things. That's not your game.
So what do you tell one of your players when they go 0 for 5 in a game? Do you be like, stop shooting?
Is the kid a shooter or not? If the kid is a shooter, then yes, keep shooting because the averages always work out. I have a kid from Valonia, Arkansas right now who's shooting 48% from three-point line. She's hit 55 threes this season, right?
Sheesh.
So she's a shooter. That means she can go 0 for 5 in one game because I know she's going to go 6 for 7 in the next.
But if it's somebody who that's not your game,
Then no, you
you're
shouldn't
like
be
Patrick
there.
Ewing. Who taught you that shot?
Yeah, so I tell our kids when they're being recruited, when we're talking about being recruited, when we're doing basketball, I say, if you're not a three-point shooter and you're out there chunking threes and missing, the only thing the college coach is seeing is that you can't shoot. That's it. That's all they're writing down
But what
in their
if they're
book.
like wide open? Are you still going to be like?
You're wide open for a reason.
But
Remember
then-
that.
Remember Coach Carter scene
no.
when it got left wide open and the coach got mad and he
No,
made it?
that
and he
happens
did
one
that?
out of every 25 times. If you're wide open against a good team, there's a reason for it. They know you can't shoot.
People used to leave me wide open. I'd make them pay. But see, I wasn't a shooter like that.
There you go.
I
So
wasn't
you were
a
wide
shooter,
open
but see,
for
a reason.
a reason.
But I mean, we go back to it's just a different time now. Like if
The
I
game-
was playing high school ball,
the game
now,
has not changed.
I'm pretty sure they would let me shoot.
The game has not changed. If you want to be a shooter, if you want to, look, I'm not saying bigs shouldn't shoot. I'm saying if that's going to be your game, Kevin Durant killed it for everybody because as soon as his big old tall lanky self started shooting
Really,
threes,
Dirk.
everybody started thinking
Before-
Dirk's from overseas. That's different, right?
Well, okay.
He's overseas. That's different. American Kevin Durant, that ruined it because then
Yeah.
every kid who I always tell people right now, the worst thing that can happen to a kid is they make 1 3.
Exactly.
The first time they make one, they all think they can shoot.
Because you think we hold Wemby to such a high regard besides him being tall? It's because he's tall and can shoot.
He is skilled. Wemby is skilled. Now,
Wemby takes like 15 threes a game.
But did you remember his rookie year? Do you remember the videos from his rookie year? He's bricking like 8, 10,
Yeah.
9 shots in a row. He couldn't hit anything.
But he still had that green light though.
But he worked on his game.
Yeah.
He's a shooter now because he became a shooter. He worked at being a
Same
shooter.
thing with Karl Anthony Towns.
So if you want to be a shooter, cool, go be a shooter. At any portion, at any level, go be a shooter, work on it. But just because you can shoot a 3 doesn't mean it's not shooters, it's makers. That's the difference in this world. Anybody can shoot the ball.
There's shot takers and shot makers.
100%. Are you a shot maker? Then shoot that ball. If you're not a shot maker, then you need to pass it or do what you do well. That's why one thing I like about Cedric Coward, he knows his game.
Yeah.
You don't see him playing outside of himself. That dude will take a mid-range on you and get to the rack, occasionally shoot that thing outside, but he's going to stay in his game. That's what I like about him.
Now, remember when we had Michael Wallace on this program and we was talking about the Cedric Coward comparisons? Now I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
But not MJ that we know.
No.
I'm talking about the MJ in North Carolina.
Don't ever compare anybody to Michael Jordan.
No. Hear me out.
No.
Watch Michael
No.
Jordan at UNC.
No. Yes,
I'm telling
I
you,
understand.
watch the
I've
footage.
watched Michael Jordan at UNC.
I know. I'm telling you, and I was having a debate with my dad.
Coward's
My
not
dad's
in the,
from Chicago.
Coward is not in college anymore.
But they're
He's in the NBA.
I'm saying if you watch Michael Jordan's game at
He's
UNC
not
and watch
Michael
how
Jordan.
Coward is playing now, it's so many comparisons that
No.
I get it. It's two different leagues, two different eras. You are looking just like how my dad was when I
Because
told
we know
him.
you're so young, you don't understand.
But you can
what
still
Michael
see
Jordan
the
really
mannerisms,
is.
though.
That's because you know why you see mannerisms? Because so many players have modeled their game after who?
MJ.
MJ. I'm gonna have Michael Jordan mannerisms if I watch him play and learn how to play like that. Kobe played like Mike.
Yeah, he did, but I like Cedric Coward.
I love Cedric Coward. I'm not saying I don't like Cedric
And
Coward.
one thing I want to segue, and this is going to be kind of two parts of my hot take. Number one, I think
yes, let's get to this hot take.
Cedric Coward has already shown that he is a worthy replacement to Desmond Bane, and that
100%.
he has shown already that the Desmond Bane trade was the right trade to make.
I like Cedric Coward because I love the energy that he plays with.
Yep.
He is going to go get you a rebound. He is not afraid to go play hard all the time, and he plays within himself. He's averaging 13 points a game as a rookie. I'm totally good with where Cedric Coward is, just like I am with Cam Spencer. Those guys, to me, are the best.
They
bright
are a
spots.
part of the Grizzlies' core of the future. I think
Yes.
the Grizzlies should stay patient and hold on to Ja and Jaren. Now, Jaren, if you want to dabble,
You don't like. So when you say what you want about me, but you are not a Jared Jackson fan.
If you want to dabble and see what you can get for him, I wouldn't mind taking calls.
Brother said my phone is open.
But if you hold on to him, that probably might be the move. Now, this is part two of my hot take.
I love that.
The Grizzlies right now are the 10th spot.
Yes,
they're basically they're in the play-in. They're like in and out of the play-in. I mean, they lose.
They're going to be a
couple more
play-in
games.
team. Just call
So
it.
exactly, if it gets to a point where they can't get to that 8, or if they can't even get out of the play-in with this trade, tank. And you want to know why? Because we should have hit on it more in our last segment. This draft is going to be one of the best drafts in recent
So
memory.
elaborate for them why they should tank, because I don't think a lot of people understand the trade and what the implications
the Grizzlies have
are.
2 first-round picks. So the Grizzlies have their own draft pick, and they have the Orlando Magic's pick. And the Magic are also a team that is in the play-in right now. Yeah. So if the Magic don't make it out of the play-in, then the Magic will be in the lottery. Just like what we saw last year with the Mavericks when the Grizzlies knocked them out of the play-in. The Mavs went to the lottery, and what happened? They end up getting the number 1 pick, getting Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
So if I'm a Grizzlies fan, just like I'm a Hawks fan, so this is what I do on the day-to-day, I would root for the Magic to lose every game. As a Hawks fan, I root for the Pelicans to lose every game because the Hawks have the Pelicans pick. If I'm the Grizzlies, every time the Magic play, I'm rooting for the Magic to lose. And that means you get 2 first-round picks in this lottery. Ruben, we're going to probably talk about this when we get closer to the draft, but you are looking at a case where there is no unquestioned number 1 pick right now. There's 3 guys.
Yeah.
Now almost starting to be 4
Yeah.
who could be number 1. There's Darren Peterson from Kansas. Did you see what he did against TCU?
He's good.
You got A.J. DeMonson from BYU.
Yes,
You got,
no question.
You got Cam Boozer from Duke.
Unquestionable.
And a guy who's starting to creep into that conversation, Caleb Wilson from UNC.
Yeah, and so listen, you're talking
some
about
other guys you were talking
Yeah,
about.
you're talking about just the number 1, the guys. You're like any of these guys could go first.
Yeah.
Right? Then you've got like we're talking about Kingston
Flemings from Houston.
From Houston, that dude's a monster.
You got the 2 guys from Arizona and Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. It's so many. You got a guy who they're calling Baby Ant. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like Yunde Tusufu.
But to
He's
your
from Baylor.
point, this draft is top heavy loaded.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for those out there who maybe don't understand or hadn't thought through it and thought, well, man, I don't want to tank. I want to go win. Let's try to see if we can win.
If you can't win it all, then what's the point?
If you can't win it all, then he's saying what Rich's point is, hey, just go ahead and lose, get in the lottery, and get you some extra picks.
Yes.
Because now you can load that. You can load that roster that's already got some pretty strong bright spots,
and you'd be right back up.
and you could probably make a pretty quick turnaround.
I mean, you already got a good nucleus there. You got Zach Edey, you got Cam
Yes.
Spencer, you got Cedric Howard, you got Jalen Wells. Even though some people are starting to sour on him, I'm still a believer in Jalen Wells. Yeah, Ja, to me, like I said, he won't ever go. He will be a Grizz for life, in my opinion. But to Ruben's point, if Ja were to leave in whatever way, if he were to request a trade, if the Grizzlies were to trade him, whatever happens, this draft, you can get Ja's replacement. Just like I got to keep coming back to me as a Hawks fan. The Trae Young stuff we're seeing.
I was going to say, Trae Young's about to
the reason why I am okay with Trae Young leaving from the Hawks is because the Hawks have the Pelicans pick. If that ends up being a top 5 pick, you get Darren Peterson. There's your Trae Young replacement right there.
Well, and the other part of it is Trae's on the back end of his career.
Ja is too, though. Ja and Trae are in a similar situation. Yeah. People have talked about, would you trade Ja for Trae? Absolutely not.
No, I would not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, why would you? One stub toe for another. All right, time for another break. I thought that was a good segment. Good job. Very strong. Your hot take is not that hot of a hot take, just so we're clear.
Did you want to get in, your hot take about the Grizzlies? What were you saying about I forgot what you said.
When? Out there?
Yeah, what did you say? I forgot what you said.
I don't know, but it was probably funny. I'm good
I can't remember it. You had some take about the Grizz.
Nah,
Dang,
I'm good on that.
It.
You try to make me seem like a Grizz hater. I'm not a Grizz hater. I'm not the biggest fan of the current NBA playing style. That's my beef with it. Not the Grizz itself. I actually enjoy the Grizz. Big fans of the young stars on the Grizz. I think those guys are going to be great for the Grizz long term.
And I'm starting to believe in Isolo. I know I look on social media, it's still half and half. Some people don't like him. I like him because he's disciplined. He comes from Europe.
Well, all right, time for another break. When we come back.
Yes, we are back with 901 bets. I didn't give you my Ole Miss take. I will give it to you in 901 bets. We back at it when we come back. I said back. What up, and welcome to the 901 Bets. Think of this as sports betting for dummies right here in Memphis. Now, before we get rolling, quick reminder, if gambling has become a problem for you, hit that Tennessee Gambling Hotline, that number right on your screen, 800-889-9789. All right, y'all, it's been a while since I did a Bankroll Basics, but I've got a term you may not have heard of, an anti-post bet. Yeah, let me say that again, anti-post bet. Don't let that name scare you, because I know the little rolls off the tongue. You'd be like, I don't even want to know what that is. Well, an anti-post is when you place a bet way before the event actually happens. Think of it like calling your shot early. We get in hot takes. Sometimes it's something that we're calling ahead of time. It's the betting version of saying the Grizzlies are winning the West before the season tips off. Now, obviously, it's probably not going to happen in real life, but just imagine if you said that. Or if you locked in the Tigers bowl matchup before Thanksgiving. If you was like, I know they're going to go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You said that ahead of time. Now, the upside of all of this is you usually get better odds because you're taking the risk early. Think of those Spurs fans who bet on their win totals before the season. Now that team is projected to easily win over 50 games. Or even Seattle Seahawks fans who had blind faith in their team to win the division and be the top NFC team. They look like geniuses right now. But here's the catch, and this part really matters. If your pick doesn't even take part in the event, the bet is usually void and you get no refund. So if a player gets hurt, a team doesn't qualify, or the matchup changes, your money's just gone. So bottom line, anti-post bets can pay off big, but they're high risk, high reward. If you're going to do it, treat it like barbecue on Beale Street. Great when it hits, but you better know what you're getting into. All right, now let's get to our Bluff City lines, and it's all about Ole Miss. The Rebels take on Miami in the Fiesta Bowl with a trip to the national title game on the line. Ole Miss comes in as the underdog, and honestly, that's where I like the value. I'm just going to take them to win outright. Now, you know me, though. I stay away from spreads. Ole Miss is a 3.5-point underdog, and Ole Miss spreads are firmly on my ban list. Now, why do I like the Rebels? This offense is rolling. We saw it against Georgia. They adjusted, found answers, and got going. And while people nitpick quarterback Trinidad Chambers, talking about sometimes his passes get batted down at the line and all this, that, and the third, he's shown time and time again he rises in big moments. Now, the total of this game sits at 51.5. I'm going to lean the over. I think Ole Miss scores 30 points, like our guy Steven Willis said. And Miami, they can run the ball. And so this feels like it's going to be a shootout. Ole Miss hits 30 easily. Miami gets a few. I want to say they get at least 3 touchdowns. You do the math right there. That's touching right at 51. So, all right, let's move on to our bets from Bill. This one comes from Jason Stratton. He's riding with the Patriots as the highest scoring team of Wild Card Weekend. He's getting solid value there at plus 750. Now, New England opens against the LA Chargers, and yeah, the Patriots can score. Drake May's been rolling, playing confident. Chargers defense has just been okay. But I'm leaning another way. I think the Bills and Jags game, that has more shootout potential. Trevor Lawrence is cooking. Buffalo's defense has been shaky at times. And this feels like a moment where Josh Allen turns it up with no Mahomes or Joe Burrow in the playoffs. I also see the Rams with strong guys here at the top of your screen, but I think people are sleeping on the Carolina Panthers defense. It's good enough to keep LA from running wild. So, Jason, I can't fully tell this one, but if you sprinkled a little bit on it, I don't hate it. Good luck, my guy. And as always, send me your takes. If you have a betting terminology you're unsure of, send it my way. Want my opinion on a slip or ticket you have? Send it my way. And man, if you even want to spotlight your W, we will give you your flowers on this program because we have fun over here, man. You can at me on X at RD2Sports, text the number 901-321-7520, or just use the hashtag ABC24Floor. But in saying all that, remember, folks, producer Leanna, bring it up one more time. This content is for entertainment purposes only. ABC24 and its affiliates do not encourage gambling. Viewer discretion is advised. Any betting decisions you make are solely your responsibility. We are not responsible for any financial losses or wins resulting from information presented on this program. Whew, time for a quick break. When we come back, it's the best thing we saw recently. Not necessarily this past week. Recently, because it's been a minute since we've been on this show. The best thing I saw, Ruben, came from the last week of the NFL regular season. Memphis native Calvin Austin III, friend of the program. He was on this very show catching the game-winning touchdown in what we thought was going to be Aaron Rodgers' final game. And he caught the game winner to propel the Steelers past the Ravens and into the playoffs. Look at him. Look at him, the Harding zone, Harding Academy zone, Calvin Austin III.
Isn't this the game where the Ravens kicker missed?
Yeah, I feel bad for the kid. As a sports fan, I was upset because Lamar is my favorite quarterback, just full transparency. So I wanted the Ravens to win this game. And when Luke missed that, I was like, man, Lamar is not in. But I felt like looking afterwards, getting death threats, people all in his Instagram comments on his family.
There's a lot of money lost. People lost money. That's the betting.
I was betting on it.
No. I will say hats off to the young man, Austin.
We got to get him back on the program.
Yeah, Calvin Austin getting the touchdown. I always think it's great when you can have those connections, right? Because then people get to see that it really does happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can see right here in Memphis, kids can look at, hey, I can make it. Because look at what Calvin Austin did. Yeah. Calvin Austin came from Harding. He went to the University of Memphis. He did it all Memphis. He's all 901. And look at him shining. And what we talked about earlier about the guaranteed money, like I talked about earlier with DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin is in that position because DK Metcalf got in trouble, got suspended, lost his guaranteed money. You know what they say, next man up, Calvin Austin. Wide receiver number 1, Aaron Rodgers goes to him with the game on the line. He delivers.
There you go. All right, let's go to my best thing that I saw. Listen to this.
Oh, you can't. Landry.
What? I don't get it.
Why did you bring that back?
How else are you supposed to carry it? You have to pay for bags. They said you have to pay for a bag. It's self-checkout, so then I just...
Don't.
That is correct. That is LSU coach, former Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, jacking a grocery basket from the store because he didn't want to pay for bags.
Lane Kiffin is such a troll, man.
He didn't want to pay for a bag, bro.
He's really undergone this heel turn again, but he just does stuff where you just gotta sit back and laugh.
Think about that. The dude's making millions of dollars a year, and you don't want to buy bags.
Hey, man, I don't blame him. I mean, LeBron's probably one of the, if not the richest athlete on the planet, and LeBron doesn't pay for Spotify. Like, I heard in the locker room when LeBron gets on the aux and they have, like, Spotify or whatever, that you still hear ads.
So, listen, I'm gonna say this for everybody. If you don't want to buy bags, totally understand that.
I keep a bunch of bags.
Take a bag with you. Have one of those reusable bags in your car. You cannot be one of the richest college football coaches in America stealing grocery baskets from the local grocery store.
His face that he has in the video, he's just like clueless. Like he's just like.
Very much so. All right, speaking of clueless, I'm clueless on how long we've been doing this, but I know I'm starving like Marvin, so I got to get some lunch.
I am very hungry.
Yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode of the 24th Floor. Shout out to everybody who made today's show possible.
Yes, especially Leanna Davis, Azarite Caleb, and Brooklyn High for their work behind the scenes, putting the show together. Big shout out to our guy, Steven Willis, always coming through for us. I can't wait to talk to him, regardless of what happens with the game. I can't wait to talk more Ole Miss Rebels with him.
And shout out to Richard Denson for doing all this work behind the scenes that you don't know about and going out and shooting all those high school games too. He's going to be in a gym near you. Make sure you give him a shout out. Come holler at him. Make sure we know where we need to be so we can catch the best talent in the area.
Absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you on the other side.